Some nights, the NBA looks exactly the way you'd expect. Clean sets, perfect spacing, stars hitting the same shots you've watched 1,000 times on highlight reels. And then there are the other nights. The ones that feel like you accidentally fell asleep with League Pass running and your brain started remixing everything into one long, weird hallucination. A guy forgets the score in the finals. A bat dive bombs a possession. A mascot tries to steal the show. The ball wedges itself perfectly between the rim and the backboard and just stays there, like the game itself is frozen. You're sitting on your couch, remote in hand, wondering if the broadcast glitched or if the players can see what you're seeing. It's still 5-on-5, same hardwood, same rules, but the rhythm is off just enough that it doesn't feel like normal basketball anymore. It feels like the NBA dipped into a parallel timeline for a couple of plays, one where physics, logic, and common sense are more like suggestions than rules. Those are the moments this video is built around, the fever dream possessions, the ones that make you sit forward instead of back, reach for the replay button, and ask, wait, what just happened? In sports psychology, they call this an expectation violation. Your brain quietly predicts what's supposed to come next: drive, kick, shot, whistle. And then reality serves you something so bizarre that your mental script gets ripped in half on live television. That tiny jolt is why you remember these plays years later. You don't always remember how many points someone scored on a random Tuesday in January, but you remember the time a player ran out the clock in a tie game, or when a crowd lost its mind over a fan hitting a half-court shot while the MVP stood on the sideline laughing. Tonight, we're not just replaying those weird clips. You've already seen most of them. We're diving underneath them. What's happening in a player's head when reality slips? Why does the most serious league in the world sometimes look like a blooper reel someone turned into a short film? And why, deep down, do we kind of love it when the NBA forgets it's supposed to be normal? Game 1 of the 2018 NBA Finals at Oracle Arena was supposed to be familiar. The Warriors' death machine, LeBron trying to bend reality, and a packed building waiting for another chapter in a dynasty. But with 4.7 seconds left in regulation, the script cracked. The score is 107-107. George Hill steps to the free throw line, entire season hanging on 2 quiet, lonely shots. He hits the first, the crowd hums, then short arms the second. The ball caroms off the front rim and drops right into J.R. Smith's hands, point blank at the rim. This is the moment every coach sketches over and over. Offensive rebound, put back, maybe a foul, maybe a kick out to LeBron for the dagger. Instead, J.R. turns his back to the basket and dribbles hard toward the perimeter, cradling that ball like the Cavs are up 1 and he's bleeding clock. LeBron's arms shoot out in disbelief, the bench rises, and you can almost feel millions of viewers at home shout in sync, "What is he doing?" What we watched in those few seconds is what sports psychologists call a catastrophic decision under cognitive overload. In loud arenas, with fatigue warping perception and adrenaline spiking, your working memory can cling to outdated information, like an earlier assumption that you're leading, and fail to update even when the scoreboard screams otherwise. JR later says he thought they were ahead. His body language matches that story. Protect the ball, kill the clock, live with the win. Only, there is no win. The buzzer sounds with the ball still in his hands, the Cavs never even get a shot, and Oracle roars like it just woke up from a nightmare in someone else's head. The camera locks onto LeBron's face, arms stretched wide on the bench, eyes burning with a mix of shock and betrayal. And in that freeze frame, a single mental misfire turns from a simple mistake into one of the most infamous fever dream moments in NBA history. If JR gave us the finals' most famous brain freeze, Lance Stephenson gave us one of the league's purest fever dreams in the middle of a playoff war. Eastern Conference Finals, Pacers versus Heat, and Indiana has exactly one real shot at LeBron James. Make his life as irritating as humanly possible. Lance takes that assignment personally. He's bumping him off the ball, overselling contact, chattering in his ear after every whistle. This isn't just defense, it's performance art. Then comes the moment that turns a chippy series into a viral clip. During a dead ball, cameras locked in.
Lance casually leans over and blows into LeBron's ear. Not a shove, not a scream, just a soft, ridiculous puff of air at the best player in the world in the middle of the Eastern Conference Finals. LeBron stares forward, half stone-faced, half trying not to laugh, while everyone watching at home scrambles to figure out if what they just saw is real. On paper, nothing about that possession matters. No points scored, no turnover forced, no highlight reel block. But psychologically, it's chaos. Most trash talk is verbal. You prepare for it, you tune it out. What Lance does is cross an invisible line of personal space, weaponizing awkwardness itself. Sports psychologists would call it a form of unexpected stimulus. Introduce something so offbeat and socially strange that for a split second, it hijacks your opponent's attention. You can see it in LeBron's micro-reactions afterward. Little smiles, head shakes, the body language of a guy who knows he can't let this get to him, but can't fully ignore it either. The series doesn't flip because of that moment, but the internet does. Years later, you might not recall the exact box scores from that matchup, but you remember Lance blowing in LeBron's ear like he was trying to glitch the game from the inside. It's another reminder that in the NBA, the battle isn't just talent versus talent, it's also who can keep a straight face when the entire world suddenly turns weird.
Most fever dream moments come from players, but every so often the arena itself decides to join in. Halloween season in San Antonio, Spurs hosting a game, and out of nowhere, a small black blur starts diving through the frame on live TV. It takes a second to realize it's not a camera glitch, it's a bat. Players are ducking, officials are waving their arms, the ball is dead, and 20,000 people are tracking this thing as it zips across the court like it owns the place. Then, calmly, like he's closing out on a shooter, Manu Ginóbili steps forward, times its path, and literally slaps the bat out of the air with his bare hand. The crowd loses its mind. Teammates are howling on the bench. Commentators are trying to describe it while also processing the fact that a future Hall of Famer just went full superhero in the middle of a regular season game. There's no playbook for bat on the floor. There's no film session where Pop draws up, if wildlife invades the court, Manu, you've got point of attack. And yet, this wasn't even the only time a live animal crashed an NBA game. Cats, birds, even loose balloons have all wandered into the broadcast at some point. These interruptions work like a hard reset on the psychological tempo of a night. One minute you're locked in on matchups and rotations, the next you're laughing, pointing, pulling your phone out to record. For players, it can actually break tension. Heart rates drop a bit, the relentless seriousness of the schedule cracks, but it also leaves a residue of unreality. For the rest of that game, it doesn't quite feel like a normal contest. It feels like anything could happen. You tuned in for pick and rolls and three-pointers. You stayed because Manu Ginóbili turned into a bat catcher on national television and proved the NBA might secretly be a live-action comic book. The free throw line is supposed to be the one place on an NBA court where chaos can't reach you. No defenders, no closeouts, just 15 feet of hardwood, a painted stripe, and a basket that hasn't moved in 75 years. It's where coaches preach routine. Same breaths, same dribbles, same follow-through every single time. But that's exactly why it hits so hard when the universe decides to get weird there. You've seen it. A shot that looks routine leaves the shooter's hand, arcs perfectly, and then somehow wedges itself between the rim and the backboard like it's been magnetized into place. The arena lets out a collective ooh, followed by laughter as seven-footers awkwardly debate who has to jump up and knock it loose. On the box score, it's just a missed free throw and a jump ball. On replay, it looks like the game engine just bugged mid-possession. Then there are the truly brutal moments. A veteran, a star, someone with a max contract and a polished image, stepping to the line in a tight game and completely airballing a free throw. Not short off the front iron, not a soft rattle out, just pure nothing. ball drifting under the rim or drifting wide, players on both teams instinctively looking around as if to confirm that yes, that really just happened. Sports psychologists will tell you this is what happens when pressure forces your focus inward. Instead of letting years of muscle memory run the show, you start overthinking the motion, hand position, elbow angle, release, and your nervous system basically trips over itself. The crowd's gasp and the bench's half-covered smiles aren't just about the miss, they're about how utterly human it makes that player look. For a second, the most controlled, repeatable act in the sport turns into a blooper, and the free throw line, this sacred island of order, becomes one more stage for the NBA's strangest dreams.
If the free throw line is where the mind glitches, the sneaker is where the body does. Every so often, an NBA possession turns into a live shoe commercial gone wrong. A guard plants hard on a crossover, and you hear it before you see it. A sharp rip, a collective gasp, and suddenly he's sliding across the floor in one sock, his empty shoe lying behind the three-point line like a crime scene prop. Play doesn't stop just because his laces did. He hops back on defense, trying to wall up a driving big man while keeping his exposed foot from getting stepped on by 260 pounds of momentum. Teammates are pointing at the loose sneaker, fans are laughing, and the broadcast cuts between the live action and a slow-motion replay of the exact frame where high-tech materials gave up on containing NBA force. Other times, the shoe doesn't just come off, it comes apart. A sole separates, a side panel blows open, and a star looks down in disbelief as the thing that's supposed to anchor him to the floor just disintegrates under playoff intensity. You'll see a teammate scoop the shoe up during a fast break and toss it to the sideline, or an opponent casually nudge it out of bounds to keep it from becoming an extra defender. For the player, though, this is a brutal focus split. Half his brain is still reading the floor, angles, matchups, clock. The other half is screaming, "Don't roll your ankle on national TV." In a league where every step, jump, and cut is calibrated, losing traction for even one trip down the floor feels surreal, like the game is temporarily turned into a slapstick sketch. And yet, once the shoe is taped, swapped, or relaced, everyone pretends it never happened, until the clip resurfaces online as another entry in the NBA's highlight reel of strange, barely believable glitches.
Not every fever dream starts with a player. Sometimes it starts in the cheap seats. Somewhere in the third quarter of a random regular season game, the action pauses for a promotion. One fan, one half-court shot, one impossible prize. Most of the time, it's a harmless brick and a polite round of applause. But every now and then, a guy in jeans and a hoodie pulls up from the logo and drills it clean. The arena detonates. The bench storms the floor, tackling him like he just hit a Game 7 buzzer beater. Mascots are sprinting in circles. And the actual NBA players, the ones paid millions to do this, are jumping around him like kids on a playground. For a full minute, nobody cares about the real score. The broadcast forgets the last timeout, the defensive schemes, the shooting splits. The main character in the building is now some random fan who walked in off the street and lived out a dream in front of 20,000 witnesses. Then there are the mascots, 6-foot animals on trampolines, dangling from rafters, flying in on zip lines during timeouts like they're auditioning for a stunt show. They fake faint behind coaches, photobomb serious interviews, sneak up on refs with harmless pranks, and sometimes get a little too close to the action, sliding onto the court, nearly wiping out a player or accidentally interfering with a live ball. For the crowd, this is pure release. In an 82-game grind, mascots and contests act like pressure valves, letting fans and players laugh between the stretches of brutal, locked-in competition. Psychologically, it jolts everyone out of the hyper-serious frame of mind and reminds them that, at its core, this is still a game. But that's also why it feels so unreal when you watch it back later. Where else do you see elite professionals sharing a stage with dancing dinosaurs, dunking gorillas, and a dude in street clothes hitting the kind of shot pros miss under pressure? It's the NBA at its strangest intersection, where circus, theater, and championship basketball all collide in the same frame. Every sport has bad calls, but the NBA has a special category of whistle that feels less like officiating and more like improv comedy. A player casually flips the ball to a ref after the whistle, only the pass sails a little high, the ref bobbles it, and suddenly it's a technical foul for showing him up. Two guys bump chests and talk for half a second after a big play, then start walking in opposite directions before a late whistle comes in with a double tech, like the refs are punishing a conversation that never even got going. Or the classic phantom foul. A shooter rises for three, the defender contests, there's a full 6 inches of daylight between them on every replay, and yet the whistle blows, the arm goes up, and 3 free throws are awarded while the bench reacts like they just saw a ghost. In the moment, it doesn't feel like basketball. It feels like the rulebook briefly turned into a stand-up routine with everyone forced to play along. What makes these whistles such perfect fever dream material is the way they clash with the player's internal sense of justice. At this level, guys build an instinctive map of what should be a call and what shouldn't, based on thousands of possessions. When a whistle lands completely outside that map, it doesn't just cost a point or a possession, it cracks their trust in the invisible contract between refs and players. You see veterans laughing sarcastically, miming the play back to the official, tapping their own heads like, "Think about it." You see coaches doing the slow walk onto the floor, arms spread, half pleading, half performing for the crowd. Psychologically, everyone is trying to reclaim a bit of control from something that feels arbitrary and absurd. For fans at home, these moments slide right into the subconscious file marked "This can't be real," alongside shoe blowouts and bat attacks. The game resumes, the scoreboard keeps moving, but a part of you can't shake the feeling that for a few possessions, the refs weren't just managing the game, they accidentally stepped into the role of comedic chaos agents. Put all of these clips side by side. The forgotten scores, the ear-blowing, the bats, the wedged free throws, the exploding sneakers, the mascots, the phantom whistles, the blackouts, and the NBA starts to look less like a polished product and more like a living, unpredictable organism. Under perfect lighting and billion-dollar broadcast deals, you still get brain farts, random wildlife, malfunctioning scoreboards, and moments where nobody on the floor is totally sure what just happened. That contrast is what makes this league feel so strangely addictive. The same environment that produces step-back threes over 7-footers and flawless last-second execution also produces moments that look like your console just glitched in the middle of a game. Psychologically, these are the cracks where we see the humans behind the heroes, how fragile focus really is, how much pressure bends perception, and how, even at the highest level, the game can slip the script and wander into pure chaos for a possession or two. Long after the stats fade, it's those surreal, "this can't be real" possessions that stick in your head and remind you that reality, especially on an NBA floor, is never as clean as it looks. So ask yourself this: what if the plays we carry with us the longest aren't the most perfect ones, but the strangest? And what does that say about why we watch in the first place? Maybe deep down, we don't just tune in for greatness. We tune in for the moments when greatness collides with randomness and something unforgettable falls out. If this dive into the NBA's fever dream side made you see the league a little differently, don't let it vanish in your scroll. Hit like if you've ever rewound a play just to convince yourself it really happened. Drop a comment with the weirdest, most dreamlike NBA moment you've ever seen, whether it made you laugh, gasp, or just stare at the screen in disbelief. And if you want more stories that dig beneath the highlights and into the psychology, glitches, and chaos that make this game feel so alive, make sure you subscribe. That way, the next time the NBA breaks reality for a few seconds, you'll be right here with us, replaying it again and trying to figure out what on earth we just watched.